Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, good morning this cold Tuesday morning. I'll be your host for the day, sitting in for Safina Cheng. Hi Safina, I know you're watching. My name is Ann Cutie, and today we'll be talking about self-care at the workplace. This is a continuation for last week. We were talking about self-care generally, but today we are going to talk about self-care at the workplace. Are you taking care of yourself at the workplace? Ama wewe ni wale watu wa kufanya zile maneno vile mnafanyanga, you don't take care of yourself, you don't even go for leave. Unaona usipoenda leave manze kampuni ni kama itaanguka. Anyway, we'll be talking about that, and today I'm on the other side. Yani enye leo nitafeel kama Safin. This is gonna be so hard for me. Nimezoea kuchachisha on the other side, but as usual the gang is here. Let me call it the gang. Good to see you. Let's start with ladies first.
Good morning.
Good morning Roberta.
Mzuri sana.
Hey, mtoto mzuri. Leo umepitia wapi? Leo hujatoka home. Leo hujatoka home.
Cutie.
Yeah.
Kama picha.
Umepitia wapi leo? Leo nakuona sana.
Leo nimevaa hivi suti ndio nionyeshe I mean business.
Iko tu sawa. Ina play the part.
Asante.
Ken, good morning.
Hi, Ann.
Wewe wacha, ni Cutie tu.
Good morning.
Good morning.
It's good to see you there. I didn't know you were so multi-talented. So congratulations.
Mungu mbele, thank you so much. Asante.
Good morning to you.
Thank you. And of course, CJ, good to see you.
Good to see you as well.
How are you feeling?
I'm good.
Liverpool is just letting you down.
No, not really. I think Arsenal had something to play for. Then we keep on messing up, you know, because they weren't very sure about their Champions League space. But of course, we are messing up a bit more. Maybe we don't have something to play for so hard. But I've told you off air, today, this is your sacrifice.
I know, you told me, and I really appreciate that. You guys, I'm honored to actually have CJ here. He told me why. But good to see you guys, and big up Mr. Josh as usual. That's my dad. He's always on air. So I'm going to start with you, Bobby. Bobby. Leo lazima nianze tu na Bobby. But of course, let's talk about self-care at the workplace. You know, last week we missed you, and you're always the advocate for self-care. Champion pale. So tutaanza na wewe. What you think self-care is, first of all, generally, and then we'll go at the workplace.
Okay. So self-care, venye tu hiyo word tu imesema, I think inaji-explain. Ni kuonesha care for yourself. Na care ina vary. Because kila mtu akona maisha different, experiences different, kila mtu ana-enjoying vitu different. So when I say the word self-care, what I think about is, how do you care for self? How do you show up for yourself? How do you love yourself, choose yourself? How do you show up authentically as yourself? Because that's the only way you can, you know, show up in your optimum, in the best way possible, by being yourself and loving yourself kabisa. So this applies in all the aspects in your life, in your romantic relationships, in the workplace. Kama sisi hapa, maybe tutashare examples of how we take care of ourselves before we come to work. But basically, that's what self-care means. It just looks like you loving yourself extra and you making sure that you show up for yourself in whatever you do. And I like to talk about self-care because I realize when we're talking about loving ourselves, we really don't know what it is that, you know, that entails or what it consists of. But it's important to kujipangia we mwenyewe hii care inakaaje, and how can I show that I care for myself in every aspect of my life. So I'd like for people to, kwanza watu wengi, sijui niseme wa Kenya ama, lakini watu wengi wana feel hawapendi kujiput first. Wanaonanga ni kama ni selfish. Wanaonanga ni kama choosing yourself it's devoid of showing up for other people, but that's not it. It's just, I always say it's just a prerequisite, because if you're able to love yourself first, then you can show up for everyone else. Ukijipenda vizuri na take care of yourself, hata job utakuwa vizuri, watu wataona Cutie ana show up, ana host pale Daybreak show in the morning. Why? Because you know you're able to show up for yourself, and then in turn you're able to show up for everyone else. So that's what self-care looks like to me. Yeah.
Awesome. And then we were talking about, Ken, last week, ulituambia mambo ya self-love, self-care. But now, being the HR that you are, sasa, tunaingia kwa organization, tunaingia kwa workplace. We talked about people not taking leave. Na kuna, leo situambia mambo ya silence. Last week ulikuwa unasema kujawaza, leo situpatie mambo ya silence. So leo tunaifungua vizuri. So at the workplace, maybe from the organization's place, how would you say that organizations take care of their employees?
Okay. It is important for us to remember that you can only be productive in the workplace and where you're employed as long as you're able to show up with your 100%. And this 100% cannot come from the place of work. It needs you to go an extra. What do you do beyond and while preparing to come to work? It's important for us, and especially individuals, never to forget who you are in that workplace. Sometimes we become too enmeshed into the workplace politics. By the way, every workplace has politics.
Yeah, true.
And the politics of that place, some we do not understand the genesis of the politics. You are calling us a gang. Every workplace has a gang.
For real?
Yes, and a band. And some people come and join later without knowing where the genesis of this place, of this gang or the band started. And then you become too enmeshed that bringing yourself out of that gang or band becomes a problem. You will go to a workplace and realize there are people who are always on the red. Ever gone to school and a new teacher will know a naughty student within the first 1 or 2 days? It's not about the student being naughty. Sometimes I tell myself it was about the staff room conversation that the teachers used to have. Like you're being prepared. Every workplace has that preparation. The induction that is the unofficial induction that is not done by the HRs, the onboarding that is done by the other colleagues. And they start telling you about bad things. We're already in May. There are some people who started quitting in January. Alifika tu January wakaambia watu na mimi huku natoka. Na ukimuuliza naenda wapi hajui. They don't have plans of where they would want to go. They have somehow tried to become like toxic members of the staff. I go an extra mile and talk about toxic employees. Employees only see employers as being toxic. But there are some employees who are also very, very toxic. They incite other people for unnecessary reasons. They do not want to show up. They have a lot of excuses. They become too comfortable and assume that that is their place of home, or they do not care. They are only looking forward to the payday. They start counting today 13th, tunalipangwa 25th. We have 12 days to go. So they are looking forward to payday as opposed to fulfilling the mandate. So now what does the employer do in return? The employer will make sure that you're not comfortable in that workplace. You will forever be summoned in offices. You are being called by your supervisor, you're being called by the HR, you're being called by even the supervisor to your supervisor. And then you become too uncomfortable because you forgot one thing, that you went there to look for a living so that your life can be better, not bitter. Your workplace should actually make you feel better. People who say they don't love Mondays, what is it about Monday? It is not about the Monday, the day. It's about showing up to the workplace because probably you have created an environment that is not safe and secure for yourself. So the employee has a responsibility. Self-care is all about creating your own environment, associating with the right people. Yes, you're telling me I don't talk about silence, but you don't have to say anything that comes to your mind. Don't say it in the workplace because even the workplace expects you to respect your employer so that your employer can in return respect you as an employee.
True. And I like the aspect that you've brought about employees can also be toxic because we are always talking about the employer being toxic. Hiyo job hata sitaki, uko hata mabosi tu kazi ni kutuvuruga, you know. So I love that you've brought that aspect of the employees being toxic. But CJ, as we are continuing this conversation, there are people who wake up in the morning, they are not motivated. Unasikia tu mtu ana complain about a job. Mtu anaamka anasema, mi job hata sijisikii kuamka. But sometimes it has to be about you. We are expecting the organization to give us a good environment, but what are individuals supposed to do to also make sure that the organization is a good place for them?
Well, you know, once you've done something for long, it takes more than motivation to do it. It takes discipline. And sometimes it's not even because the workplace is not conducive. It's just the routine, the rat of the routine that now makes you feel like, I don't feel like waking up today. Part of those have got to do with lack of personal disciplines as well. For example, Ken is talking about the Mondays. For some people generally, they fear Monday because they mismanage Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
So they're scared of Monday.
So, yeah, so now the Monday shocks them. Like, oh man, I need to show up at work, but you didn't rest, you didn't refresh,
I didn't recharge.
you didn't sleep. So now this hits you that you're getting into another 5-day rut. So you want to put it on the job, but it's not the job. You mismanaged the days you're supposed to have taken care of yourself. So if I want to get motivated, first of all, I've got to do what Bobby was talking about. I need to take care of myself. Because when I do that, I will wake up with energy every single day. Most of the times, the lack of energy is because you've not rested, you've not refreshed, you've not replenished yourself. So no matter what you are given, even if you are put in a very good environment, if you are tired, you will be tired.
Yeah.
Even if it was going to be the best occasion, you will just be tired. People are tired even in their own weddings. You know? They're showing up, going to the wedding, and they're very sleepy. But it's supposed to be one of the most joyful days of their life. But they will tell you, I didn't sleep. I was doing my hair till midnight and all that kind of stuff. So if you don't really take the time to take care of yourself, every environment will be toxic, because eventually the external environment will only give back to you what you've put in your internal environment. You take care of the internal environment, you are able to go past even very difficult environments. And then you've got to also remember why you are where you are.
Yeah.
It's important for you to remember that. When Ken was talking, I just thought about it, that actually going to work is self-care. If this thing is paying me and it's supposed to get me to live better, then why am I messing up with it? Why am I messing up with the thing that helps me pay my bills, be able to live in this city and not go back to the village and get stuck and be a burden to everybody? Why would I do that? Why would I mess up with a thing that gives me a sense of stability and independence, that even if I were to borrow money from you now, QT, I know that at the end of the month I can pay you.
Yeah.
I mean, it gives me some sense of dignity, purpose. It gives me a space to go to. It has given me a network. So I shouldn't mess up with that, because messing up with that also means I'm messing up with myself. So remember why you went in. Always remember the why. In most things, once you define and remember your why, it will be easier to do the other stuff.
Wow. Watu wa sherehe mnasikia. Every Monday, it's about Monday blues. You're always talking about, oh my God,
And you know,
tomorrow is Monday.
A trend that is, I don't know why people are still in the show about it, because like on TikTok, it's really trending.
Yeah.
That your radio presenter at 2 a.m.
Yes.
and at 7. And you want to show us that at 2 a.m. you can be partying and having clear shots everywhere and music, and at 7 a.m.
Yes,
you're concentrating. Sometimes I think we really disrespect the places where we are.
We work, and I agree with you on that. And maybe I would love Bobby to highlight this. Bobby, have you ever worked in a toxic environment, and how are you able to overcome the challenges? Because as we've said, sometimes it's actually the organization that is toxic, or sometimes the people around you in the organization. So have you ever worked in a toxic environment, and how are you able to overcome that negativity?
Oh yes, and Kina CJ were here. They had to bear the
Every
brunt of me
morning.
complaining every day. When we had Kina Shazmin Bank, there's actually I used to complain every day. As CJ was speaking, when you're asking the question, I was like, that's me.
Every morning.
That's me every day. I used to wake up miserable. I used to be so sad. And if you know me, I'm not a miserable person.
Yeah,
like
you're
in,
not
in,
actually.
in real life. But I used to be so sad. Na si hata kuchoka physical, ni kuchoka emotionally, and yani I was tired in my soul. There was no amount of rest or sleep that was satisfying what I felt. I was just so exhausted. And yes, I've been in a very toxic environment, and I don't know if I should say why the place was toxic, but like it's just, it puts you in a space where you even start to hate yourself. And no amount of taking care of yourself, like hizi zenye tunasemanga, eat right, go to the gym, hazikuwa zinasaidia. Unaenda na workout, nikiingia kwa hiyo ofisi nasikia kulia. And it was so bad, because even after I left, I suffered a lot of like post-traumatic stress disorder for a while. I had so much anxiety. I had I had loss of self-worth. Imagine mimi Roberta sijipendi ati kwa sababu ya pali nafanya kazi. So yeah, this definitely happens, and it does affect you. And it affects us a lot, because we never stop to think about, you know, your emotional health or your mental health when you're in the workplace, because most of us are chasing the money. You're thinking,
I need
if
to
I can pay my bills, ndo nisiishi nje, nisikwe homeless, then I'm good. But it reaches a point you start to see, oh, no. So the reason I've mentioned that is because when I used to complain to kina CJ najua alikuwa amechoka na mimi, but they were so...
Please don't misrepresent.
Don't misrepresent it.
Okay, me, I would be tired of someone who complains all the time.
Every morning.
Every time we're talking about nice things, here comes Roberta with her cries and sorrows about this place. And one time, my friend Shazmin Bank, she just asked me, so why are you still there? Why are you still there? What are you scared of? You know, bills, I have to go because what will I do? I wish I listened and left sooner. Because that fear that was keeping me there, and you know me, I'm a leaver. I'm always ready to step, bounce. But it's like a conditioning. It keeps you, you know, these toxic places, they make you feel like you can never do better than where you're at. Like uko inje ukienda, there's no jobs. Who will hire you? You'll never get somewhere else to go. And that's the feeling I had internally. And that feeling wasn't coming from me because I do know myself and I know how much of a high achiever I am. But being in that space had made me lose all my self-worth to the point that I wasn't even able to see like greener pastures or what will happen after this. So the way I was able to overcome it, first of all, was leaving. I left. It's not me who left. They let me go, but I left.
You're like, it's a wrap.
It's fine. They helped me. They told me they won't be renewing my contract. And I think I was sad a bit, but then I thought about it and like, what am I holding on to? They've actually helped. It was like a stepping stone into my next life because what came after, I've never been happier than I have been ever since I left that place. So something that I used for myself to help me, you know, heal and get better, first of all, leaving that place. And then just accepting the damage that that place had done to my mind and to my self-esteem, to my self-worth. You don't really see it, but as you're healing from, you know, toxicity, you start to see even the way you're showing up, the way you speak, the way you feel about places. I was complaining consistently. I had to stop being that person who was always miserable and sad and start working on myself. Surrounding myself with people who see my self-worth, people who encouraged me, and people who are consistently telling me, utakuwa tu sawa, itakuwa sawa. Sisi tume lose jobs ngapi na tuko sawa. Being able to know that you can always start over again and again and again. And this I've learned from my mom. I've seen my mom fail so many times and her pick herself up over again and again from scratch. Yani, we lose everything, we start again. We lose everything. And we're having this conversation yesterday.
Yes.
So it's, if she can go through that and do that, why not me? And I'm way more educated. I have way more opportunities and exposure. She's put me at such a better place, kujijenga. So fear equal, but you need to start knowing that you can't remain in that toxic space, and not just like the workplace, even internally. If in your body you're feeling like, I was misrepresenting CJ, but I know when you're the kind of person who complains all the time, watu choka around you, watu wanza tu kuchoka, they start feeling like, kwani unanga story poa, unanga positivity, you have nothing nice happening in your life. But being around people who didn't show me that they were exhausted by me, people who kept encouraging me, surrounding myself with people who, you know, helped me come back. And then I started to see myself worth and understand this is not about me, because I know the kind of person I am. I'm such a good employee. I'm such a good colleague. Maybe I'm tooting my own horn, but it's the truth.
Yes.
Ken is listening.
It's the truth. I think I do well.
Right.
I do well. So that really helped me place myself in a position where I was able to regain like everything I feel I lost. Emotionally, mentally, because like I said, sengine umechoka kwa soul, no amount of sleeping. Mi hata ninge take leave nilale, lakini nikirudi, the dread, that dread for Monday, that was fear. It wasn't even Monday blues. It was like, it's like my fight or flight was usually activated when Monday morning comes in. I'm shaking, I'm anxious, I'm scared, borderline falling into depression. Na si kazi yangu, ni kampuni ya mtu mwingine. So please, that's why it's important to know your limits, to know who you are so that you're able to show up for yourself better. And just admit, you know, maybe this is not a fit. Maybe it wasn't a toxic space. Maybe it was just me not fitting in there. So kujipenda ni muhimu. Because kama ningejipenda, ningeona earlier that this is not a situation that I should be in. I didn't have to wait years for me to realize I'm better, I can do so much more for myself. So taking care of yourself is also living and making decisions that make you feel better. Usingoje kuachishwa kazi kama.
And I love the honesty. I love how Bobby speaks and she says it really took me a while. Because it's true, you're scared about the finances. How am I going to, you know, pay my bills? And maybe Ken, you can just come in and talk about the damage that it can do to someone emotionally, you know, maybe physically, mentally, the toll that it can take on you. And also, you can add on, how do you stop going to work? Because at the end of the day, you need to pay bills. So wale watu wenye wamesema tu wanazoea, wanasema wacha tu nivumilie, aki job hii mwaka aholie uko kwa job yenye upendi, unasema wacha tu nivumilie because of finances. Maybe you can talk about that.
Yeah, actually, I love the honesty from Bobby.
Yeah.
What we need to understand is if you do not love your place of work, you will never thrive. That's a secret. And even when I visit schools, I tell students, the secret to passing exams lies in only one thing, loving your teacher. If you do not love that one teacher, that one subject, that teacher that you do not love, you will never pass in the subject. So love your place of work. Do not stay in a place where you're being tolerated. If you cannot be celebrated for little wins, then that means that place is wrong for you. I wish I had given this picture. It's a picture I show while training of Kitunguu Saumu and tangerine. You know, they have the same shape. Yeah? That you can take a tangerine piece and attach it to a Kitunguu Saumu and the round will be complete, but does not mean that the tangerine belongs there. Sometimes, even if you fit does not mean you belong. You could be in the wrong place, doing the wrong things, and you're not even growing. Your place of work needs, number one, to uplift you. You see, the challenge that Bobby had is talking about finances. When we teach people about financial management, I say if your net salo cannot pay for you 4 months of rent, then you're either not being appreciated enough in your place of work or you are overspending. Your net salary. That do not spend everything. Don't stay in a place of work where it's hand to mouth. Unalipwa leo na kesho ushaanza kufuata madeni. Because that workplace, most of us tunavumilianga kwa places of work because you think you cannot make it if you leave this place. And you end up being emotionally drained. You end up disassociating with people. Some people even become snitches, all in the effect of, let me protect my job, so afadhali ni snitch watu wengine. You go into a place of work where somebody is talking trash to you and you're a professional. You spent 4 years in college or 4 years in university for somebody just to come and condescend you that way. And you know, people who condescend people have low self-esteem.
That's true.
And the moment you will stand up to them and say, hey, I don't think you're allowed to speak to me anymore like this. Or why do you want to speak to me like this, yet I am doing what I am supposed to do? Sometimes stand for yourself. It's okay to leave a place of work with dignity that you left standing, rather than you stay in a place where your self-esteem will even be tarnished and you will live feeling like a worthless human being. It's okay to start from zero. And the zero is not the same always. When you're starting your career, the first place of work is always a lesson for you to be prepared for the next place of work. You can never start again like somebody who does not know what they are supposed to do. But also what CJ was talking about earlier, familiarity breeds a lot of contempt. You cannot be in the same place of work doing the same thing and nothing is changing about you. No salary increment. The only thing you are doing is adding the number of years so that when people come wanaambiwa, this place is so good that so and so has been with us for 10 years. But you're not growing. You need to ask yourself, what is this that you're gathering from this place of work? Associate with the right people. Please don't meddle into the affairs of people too much. Don't get too personally attached. I know there are people who will find love in their workplaces. Congratulations. I am not a believer or advocate for it.
Ken.
I actually think people who share a career should never share love because it will be a boring... What else can you talk about except broadcast. With all due respect. Yeah? If you find love, fine. But if you do not, don't start getting into other relationships that are going to be very harmful to you. Don't get too closest to your bosses. The boss's boundaries must always be appreciated. Don't be the kind of a person I meet her and she's my supervisor and the first thing, Wolan.
Umesema nisembe boss wangu awola.
You know, it sounds too casual, and that is the familiarity. It will breed contempt such that even when a time comes to have hard decisions, you start looking at that person, so this one was a pretender. They were not real with me, but they are not pretending. They are actually keeping a boundary that is supposed to be kept. So keep your boundary. Associate with the ones who have been there before you and ask them, what would you tell your younger self in this place of work? You know that question we always ask people, but we don't know the relevant. What would you tell the younger you when you were coming here in your first year? What would you advise somebody never to do? A mistake that probably you made in your first 1 year. Why? It's okay to learn from other people's mistake. Don't wait to learn from yours. And then always sacrifice. Sacrifice what can be sacrificed. You can sacrifice even not going for outings during the evenings so that you can go to class and upgrade yourself. Some people will be lucky you got a job without papers. You will not sustain that job without papers if the tide changes. So now can you go and get the papers? If you're not disciplined enough, what CJ is talking about, the consistency will seem like nothing is happening today until things start changing and you will appreciate. And then don't jump from one job to another just because I'm not finding the right thing. Nilikuwa tu huku navumilia. After 6 months, you're out. How many jobs are you going to jump out? Yeah? If you have changed jobs more than twice in 3 years, and you're still complaining about job A, and the same complaint is in job B, it's not about the jobs. It's you now as an individual, and you need some panel beating. You need to seriously get yourself a coach who will sit you down and listen to you and your complaints and tell you, yes, you have been complaining, but I think the problem lies in here. Attitude. What is the attitude that you're bringing to the workplace? Don't bring the bad attitude because you will never go far with a bad attitude.
I love how you've brought in the aspect of net. Umesema kama net yako hatufai kulive hand and mouth. But I would like CJ to talk about the boundaries, how to separate the workplace, balancing between workplace, between your home, between your relationship and all that. But before that, kuna hii kitu ya kuvumilia yenye Ken amesema every time. But I think like we are mostly guilty of that. Kuvumilia unasema tu, mimi niko hapa juu lazima nilipe bills. Mimi niko hapa juu enye I really need this job. So how would you advise someone that is watching the show today and they're like, mimi naendaga hiyo job juu nahitaji hiyo pesa? How do they balance from that?
First of all, I must complain for giving the better questions to Ken.
I'm really sorry. CJ, why are you putting me on the spot like that?
You know, I was just processing through, even as, you know, Bobby talking about the toxic space, and then Ken leveraging on that. And I think the common denominator is respect. It's just basically respect. You may not necessarily be celebrated, but you must be respected as an individual, that nobody's going to put you down. I was at a training on Friday, and I said, never allow anybody to make you question your identity and your ability. You must never allow anybody to do that. You start doubting who you are, and you start doubting what you can do. Because when you were employed, Cutie, they looked at your credentials and they said, you can work here. So if somebody begins to make you doubt whether you're qualified, that's not a good place for you to be at. You should never allow that. Or you begin to question whether you're bright or not, whether you're a good person or not. You should never allow that. Those two things, non-negotiable. Your identity, your ability. As long as you know you're giving your best, you're showing up your most. So that's a boundary that you must draw. Even if you're being paid, they must never get you to second guess yourself. Because the impact of that is that even if you leave, where else are you going to when you're second guessing yourself? There are people who've been in places where they were told so much about how they were less, how they were useless, how they were not skilled, how they have no ability, the employer is enduring them, they've done a favor to them, that if you release these people, it's like releasing a dog from a leash that it has had for maybe 10 years. It doesn't move because mentally it is broken. So it is loosed, but it just feels mentally it's still on a leash. It's not used to going anywhere. So you've got to also look at whether this is a leash or you have been unleashed to work. If every day somebody keeps putting you down, that's a whole different thing altogether. And you may need to have that conversation with them. Now, in respect, you have to stand up for yourself and say, look, I know I need this job, but I don't think I'm the person you say I am. I am brilliant.
Yeah.
I am gifted. I have brought this to this workplace. That's why you need to know what you have brought in. You must never let anybody else tell you what you brought in. You must know what you brought to the table. And say, I've brought in this, and I feel I am being unfairly treated. And if that cannot change, then you take a walk like Bobby. You know, I'm not the type to always encourage people to walk, because I believe that every space in life has its own challenges. So you have to also build endurance, because in one place you will find they treat you well, but they don't pay you well. And then another place, they pay you well.
What?
I know a place.
They will work your hours like something else. They take up so much of your hours. And you're not certain that you will eventually find that balance in one particular place. So sometimes then you have to adjust your balance based on your priorities per time. Maybe you're in a season where money is the important thing then. And after a while, it may not be. So you can tell yourself, for these 5 years, I want to build myself financially. Then after that, you know, well, I've built myself a bit, invested here and there, or maybe put up my house. I don't need to pay the rent that Ken is talking about. So then you now go into something else that gives you the joy of working. You can also break your life into those seasons, but you may not always get everything in one pack. The definition of, you know, the boundaries is to know that when I leave work, I have given my all at work. And so now I need to take care of myself so that I can come back and give my 100% to the work. If I don't have these boundaries and I'm working 16 hours, 18 hours, when I come back tomorrow, it will affect my productivity. So you're not just protecting yourself, you're also protecting your employer from paying somebody who is unproductive. They need to know that you need to give them the best hours. And you have to understand, anytime you fail, like today now, Safin is not here. The show is going on. You'll get to know that the music goes on. It is just the dancers who keep on walking in and out of the dance floor, but the music goes on. And you've got to know that you must never put yourself in the place where people are lying to you that you are indispensable. You are absolutely dispensable. What happens to you when you move out of that workplace? You find you have no social networks. Even your family, you realize you have no connection with them, you aren't spending time with them. You begin from zero socially. You may not begin from the very zero career-wise, but socially, you begin from zero because you were never there for people, you didn't have contacts, you never hung out with people, you never visited your parents, you never visited your siblings, you didn't have time with your family. Now you want to build this, and you know what they do? They start feeling like, so now QT wants to be with us because she has no job.
True.
So they don't even trust you. And that will hurt you even the more. That will hurt you even the more. You nearly have to go around and say, guys, I'm sorry, I wasn't there. So when you look at the bigger picture, you begin to say, look, I worked until this time. There are cases where it might be necessary for me to go extra because it's an emergency or I'm the one who is skilled in that area, but only for a while. So I'll give you just an extra 1 hour. After that, I'm shutting down. You guys won't find me till tomorrow.
Wow. Easier said than done.
Just a quick one.
I don't think it is easier said. Sorry, I don't think it is easier said than done. You know, you teach people how to treat you. You teach people how to treat you. And because we are not used to generally having difficult conversations, we find that to be very difficult. When you go to the gym, when you went to the gym the first time, you were feeling the pain and the ache.
It was hard.
But the only way to overcome that was to keep going to the gym.
Keep on doing it.
Speaking the truth is like going to the gym. Speaking your truth is like going, it's very uncomfortable, it's painful, you nearly feel like you need to call back and apologize. Say, I didn't mean it like that, I'm sorry if I hurt you. But if you keep doing that, you will never grow into that truth. And people respect you when you speak your truth. Because they know if Cutie has said this, she means it. They will learn to adjust. Initially, it may be very difficult, but they do learn to adjust.
Ken, you wanted to weigh in something on
just
that?
wanted to give, one of my mentors has given me a book that I'm reading. I don't know whether anyone has read this book. It's called Are You Indispensable? Very, very interesting book. What CJ is talking about, he who pays the piper determines the tune. And your employer now is the one who is paying the piper. They will determine. They will know when you're done, when you can be used, and when you can be misused. I'm sorry to use those terminology, but that's
the hard truth, yeah?
Everybody is dispensable, including founders. Sometimes the company outgrows even the founder, and they will be dispensable. And at one particular time, when you become obsolete, make sure that you have a network that will support you, because you can go down very fast. We've seen people who leave their places of work. You retire, you had nobody preparing you for retirement, you will die. You are useless.
Hard truths hapo Ken anatupatia vile zinafaa. But coming to you, Bobby, what would you do better right now? You've talked about who you were maybe a few years back, but right now, when an offer comes to the table, when would you be able to say, like, no, this is not for me? The way CJ is saying, you need to know your value. You need to know what you're bringing to the table. But at the same time, you really need this job. So what would you better right now? Would you do better right now, this juncture?
Okay, not even what I would do, but what I've already done. Because during these years, I feel like I've been putting in the work towards, you know, building myself and who I am now. So now my self-worth is very cemented. So even nobody can come and tell me, you're not all that, you're useless, nobody can make me feel like that anywhere. And that's why it's so, I love listening to CJ speak. You know, I feel like I speak from my emotions, because if it doesn't feel right, I'm not doing it. But CJ speaks from experience, like lived experience, things he's done, things he knows what he's talking about. So I love to listen to, you know, both sides of the coin. And for me, something that I've been doing consistently is working on myself. Not just working on like my self-worth, it's a wholesome, it's a 360 kind of working on myself. I pay attention to myself, I rest, I listen to myself, I take care of my body, I eat well. And these things are the small things. You know, if you ukijieka level flani, hakuna mtu anaweza ingia kwa life yako anze kukwambia ati you're useless. How am I useless? And I'm able to show up consistently for myself. So it's really, really important that you love yourself beyond anything else. No one can love yourself in the ways that you can. No one can ever show up for you in the ways that you can. What I've been doing actively is exactly that, putting myself first. Now, even if like an offer comes or anything, my mom, I'm always beefing with my mom about this. Anasemanga niko na kiburi sana. Hi, mom. Lakini hii kiburi inatoka kwa hiyo experience ya kujua what I deserve. Inatoka kwa hiyo kujua what I can settle for, what I can listen to, what I can stand for. Things like respect. I'm able now to speak up for myself and say, hivyo venye unasema easier said than done. It's not hard for me anymore.
It's not,
I can tell you, kwa uzuri na kwa heshima, I do not appreciate the way you spoke to me. I do not like the way you talk to me. You don't pay me enough for us to be in a nice way. In a nice HR
diplomatic
way.
Imagine ukiambia hivyo HR, eh? Imagine Ken ni HR wako.
Karibu na mimi nimeanza kufeel hizo PTSD nikirudi kidogo. But it's just I'm able to stand up for myself better. I'm able to negotiate better, even pay. When I was in that situation, I was being paid very dismally. And you see, you're kept in that hand-to-mouth situation where you're even scared to say, ni kama una beg, ni almost ka una beg. Na sasa nakwambia, be here on Saturday, be here on Sunday, come on holidays. You literally have no life, you have no social life. Na si ya kujitakia kama hiyo ya ati watu wana put work first. Hii ni ile I really wanted to balance, but I was unable because they were taking all my time. They were, hey, not even time. These people are taking my soul. They were sucking me dry.
You have to deal with it.
I feel
we need to have a talk.
Okay. Yeah. We will sit down and debunk because enyewe niko na mauchungu bado. Siamini mtu anaweza ni treat hivyo na mimi ni Roberta. But I think talking about it also helps. Thank you for the opportunity to revisit.
You need to
I think I had buried it. But, you know, just working on my self-worth and my confidence and, you know, loving myself more has put me in a position where enyewe sai siogopi. Sai siwezi stand for anything I can't tolerate, something that doesn't make me, like I said, I move with emotion. It has to, for me personally, things have to feel right for me to be okay. Because if I'm not okay, I'm not going to be able to show up. And CJ mentioned, then my employer will be paying someone who's not even doing what they're supposed to do because I can't, because I feel miserable. So putting myself first, my needs, my feelings, my thoughts, I need to feel respected because I will dispense the respect. It's not really conditional because I'm respectful whether you're respectful to me or not. But there has to be, it just has to feel right. So taking care of myself is such a huge priority. Sorry to say, I don't know if it sounds narcissistic, but it's a me thing.
Yeah.
If me, I'm not okay, then you're not going to find me.
I like
that. So we have to balance. I take self-care very seriously because I know what discipline has done for me. And I work on discipline intentionally because I'm not a disciplined person. When I was listening to CJ speaking, I was thinking, hizi vitu tunasemanga zina ndio maana umesema sounds easy. I said hizi vitu tunasemanga zina sound wow, watu wako na life poa, wanaishi wako na jobs poa, wajai go through bad employers, they've never experienced it. And I was thinking somebody, I don't know if I can say Mhindi, but if people who work in such places before, maybe they're watching and they're thinking, huyu CJ anasema nini sasa? Hajui ile maisha tunaishi. But listen, self-care at every level. You don't have to do self-care like CJ. His is curated for his life.
True that.
Mine is curated for my life. Mimi tu nikipata kanduthi kangu kapoa nifike pali nafika haraka in time. Hiyo ndo self-care yangu. Mtu mwingine self-care yake ni kudrive Bentley. Hiyo ndo self-care yake. Tuko different levels. Haimanishi yangu ni less ama yako ni better than me. Inamaanisha tu we have different ways of taking care of ourselves that help us, you know, show up in our optimum, in our best ways. So please, make sure you think about that. A lot of people don't think about how does it make me feel. We just think bills. I'm telling you, you will pay those bills, utafika point kichwa itaruka. Hautaweza, utakuwa na pesa na uwezi show up for anything else. So please, make sure you're putting in the deliberate effort to love yourself more than, I can say more than your job. Maybe Ken will say no, but
it's true.
Love yourself more than anything else, and then you'll see everything else just starting to work out. Your people around you will be influenced because the way I treat myself, it would be so sad if anyone came into my life and tried kunishusha. Because I've done so much work on myself. So why would I settle for anything less than me? 2, 3, 4 years ago, they were able to make me feel like that because I had no self-esteem. I felt very lowly of myself. But now, hey,
maybe as we are winding up, maybe the last one from you, Ken, like CJ has said, he doesn't really advocate for that, for leaving when he gets, but sometimes inabidi. So maybe just talk to that one person. Maybe ana consider, hii job itabidi nimeacha. Wanasema kuna watu wana resign January, lakini bado December wako hapo. So maybe a takeaway on that.
Allow me not to speak to the person who wants to quit. Allow me to speak to the person who has authority over somebody else. One, it is illegal to employ children in this country. So please do not treat anybody who works under you or for you like a child. Give that person the respect that they deserve. Because what goes around always will come around. Karma is real. I can tell you karma is real. I have been in situations where I was fired, but the person who once fired me in a toxic manner had to one day come and face me in a panel. Their life about a job, a contract worth 9 figure was dependent on me seated in that panel. Wow. And when I looked at them, I asked myself, am I bitter enough to let this person go and treat somebody else like that? And I said, please, when you're given a sense of authority, just exercise authority knowing that is salient. It will come and it may end. The question is, what will that person leave looking at you like or talking to you? Some of the supervisors are never blessed because of the prayers of their subordinates. These people cry to God and they ask God to kill you. I'm not asking you.
I know.
But please make sure that even the people below you feel respected and they feel appreciated, that they will always show up to make your work and your company feel okay.
CJ, tufungie show tafadhali. Umesema it's all yours. Take it away.
Well, I think we've got to appreciate the blessing of having a place to work.
Yeah.
But then again, the only thing that you can control is yourself. It is you that you can bring there. You can't control how long you will stay there. You can't control who will be running that company. As Ken said, even founders sometimes, you know, the company outgrows them. I've written a book on business, and I talk about that even founders should not think that they're indispensable. You don't know about the future of that, but you can take care of yourself so that when opportunities come, seasons change, everything happens, you can keep a constant around you, that you are healthy, you're productive, you're able to show up both at work and outside of work. And just remember, you're a social being as well. Do not work so hard at the expense of your social life. This is why when people retire or lose jobs, they go into depression because they didn't have a social life at all. And even with biological children, you know, it is said that children, as they grow, then they get closer to their moms. There's a story of, you know, mothers will go and visit their children abroad and the fathers remain here because probably there was no social investment. Eventually you will leave work, but your relationships will remain intact. There are people you must never sacrifice just because of your work.
Sure.
Wow, and we call it a wrap. Thank you so much, Gang, for always showing up. I hope
You've done so well.
Thank you, guys.
So nice.
Thank you so much, guys. CJ, thank you for making this sacrifice. Always put that in mind. Put me in mind.
Right,
okay?
right.
See you guys next week, and that was really awesome. And I picked something that, remember, the music goes on. It's just that the dancers don't sacrifice yourself too much. Remember, everything goes on. Even when you leave, everything still goes on. And as my director is saying, everything that goes around, vile Ken amesema, comes back around. So just try to respect the people that are below you, that are above you, so that you can make the working environment a better place for everyone. See you next week, guys. Same place, same time. And keep on watching Citizen TV. Thank you for having me.
Yay.